What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. I'm getting hydrated right now. It's very important to stay hydrated, especially when making YouTube reviews. Very intense process. Just my water. I'll try to keep it to the side. I've got electrolytes in my water, and I put electrolytes in every water that I drink so that I get the nice minerals in addition to the water content. Anyway, here is Spider-Man 2099 versus Venom 2099. Now you're probably wondering, hey, you just did Spider-Man 2099 Volume 3. Where's Volume 4? And that's a great question. I do not know where I put it. So I read that and this over the Christmas break and finished up all the Spider-Man 2099 Classic that exists. All the other volumes were titled like Volume 1 through 3 and had the Classic moniker on it. And this one didn't. They like decided to try that like renumbering scheme where there's no number on it, just try to convince people to buy it as like a standalone thing, even though it totally is a continuation of that series. The frame looks exactly the same. It's just not going to have the little numbering on the bottom, which is obnoxious. Now they've already screwed up Spider-Man 2099 a little bit. Let me grab my first 3 books so I can show you real quick. So stay tuned. Don't leave for the 5 seconds of dead air here because I'm not going to edit it. Hold on. All right, so maybe it was like 7 seconds of dead air. But they've already screwed it up, and here's what I'm talking about. All the volumes, I don't have Volume 4, so I can't show you it, but all the volumes, as you can see, are this like red color, except for Volume 2, they did a different color. Volume 4 is also this red color, and it has all this on the bottom, and this is the only one that doesn't have this. So they've got a very ugly bunching of this, which is really obnoxious as a collector and a person who likes to put things on shelves. So I'm annoyed. Marvel, you suck for this. But I get it. They wanted to sell more copies of this book, so they want to make it look like a standalone thing, and here it goes. This book collects Spider-Man 2099, number 4 through 38. The series actually goes through, I think, 46 or something like that. Somewhere up there. I don't know the exact number. Peter David wrote the entire series and then actually leaves like 2 or 3 before the end. This does not complete Peter David's work on here. There was big editorial problems at Marvel at the time. He got mad and quit the book, and the last couple issues suffer because of that. But this does not complete the run of Peter David's work, which is unfortunate, but it's very close. So I hope they do another volume to get that stuff so we can have everything. But it also collects some stories from Spider-Man, or 2099 Unlimited number 9 and 10, which is like in the 90s, they did this like quarterly volumes, and they had a 2099 Unlimited, Spider-Man Unlimited, and X-Men Unlimited. And they just did little short vignette stories, I think, to develop their new talent and stuff like that through these. But they don't really tie in very much. And then they also had the Spider-Man 2099 Meets Spider-Man special, which I'll get to in a second because it's actually the first story in the book here. All right, here we go. And here it is, Spider-Man 2090 Meets Spider-Man. I had this as a kid, and I loved this. I read this several times. I only had a couple issues of Spider-Man 2099 proper, but I followed Spider-Man all the way through the whole time, so I was very happy to see this like time-bending incident where time gets out of sync, Spider-Man shows up in the future. This is reminiscent of Spider-Man 2099 number 1, where he's getting chased immediately by these flyers, and he's in the future there, has to deal with them. Meanwhile, Miguel shows up in Peter Parker's apartment naked with Mary Jane. So that's pretty funny stuff. And the hijinks ensue. They have to eventually work together to deal with a threat to the timeline and all that that's coming and ripping everything apart. We get to see Venom actually fight Spider-Man 2099, which of course Venom was in everything at the time, so they of course had to put him in here. And it also deals with like the 2099 issues have this this deal where there was this Age of Heroes, which is our current timeline apparently. And at some point something happened and they disappeared. And this was supposed to be that event, and Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2099 worked together to stop it. Now there's a Green Goblin from even later in the future who is causing problems amuck with the timeline. And there's this like Ultra Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2500 or something like that, who shows up and helps them with that. And this was cool. I remember loving this as a kid, loving seeing this guy with like 6 arms and stuff, being all futuristic. And I wanted more of him, and he never came back. So, but it was fun. They saved the day. Very a one-off issue. Very cute to watch them come together and do this. Very good story by Peter David. And then we have a special, and this special has Spider-Man 2099 fighting a Man-Spider. Notice it's written by John Peterson, not Peter David. So it's a very much a one-off thing. It's actually a decent one-off story, but it doesn't really tie into the rest of the storyline. You know, there's a lot going on that's been built with Peter David with all these background characters and everything. And I'm just not super excited about that special, sorry. And there's a couple other stories, backup stories for the special. Mark Waid actually wrote one, and it's pretty good. I mean, they're all just like little one-off vignette type things, though, that aren't super useful or conducive to the whole main storyline. So again, like it's like Volume 3 had that crossover with a big crossover event that lasted like half the volume. This has all these like little vignette stories that take half the volume, and they just aren't that interesting compared to the actual storyline. So after the Spider-Man 2099 meets Spider-Man, which I was very excited about, I just kind of like really didn't want to read much of this, and it was okay. I just like had to get through it just so I could do this review. And none of these really have any impact on the main storyline or the character whatsoever. And so he does his little quick fights with villains. Doesn't feel much like the rest of the issues. And we finally get back into the series proper. And the series proper only has, what is it, 34 through 38? So that's 34, 35, 36, 37, 38. It's only 5 issues in this. So I guess they're probably plotting this out so they could develop that 6th volume, I guess. Let's hope it actually comes out, because they never promised it. We get back, and Spider-Man's on the road with his ex-girlfriend. This is Miguel and his ex-girlfriend. And he gets captured by some agents, and it gets taken to Washington, D.C. This is a really interesting storyline. And she freaks out and all that. This is his brother, who looks kind of like him, and his girlfriend also looks kind of like his brother's girlfriend, so it gets kind of weird. And now there's a storyline going on here where she thinks he's Spider-Man, and he actually isn't, but he hasn't actually denied it. And so she wants him to go out and fight things, and he's not going to. Now, on the other front, apparently Dr. Doom has become president of the United States and taken things over. This is awesome. I really need to read Doom 2099 at some point, but that volume is extremely expensive, and so I have not picked that up. And yeah, if you guys want to contribute more to Patreon, I'll pick up that book. But this is a cool storyline. I mean, he becomes president, and he actually seems to be he's ruling with an iron fist, of course, but you know, I mean, he doesn't seem to be doing a bad job from what I've read of the few issues here. But he actually wants Miguel O'Hara under his secret identity to take over the Alchemex Corporation, because he's got the head of the Alchemex coming into his cabinet. And then on the other front, he actually wants Spider-Man to join his cabinet as like a new superhuman position post. So very interesting idea, very cool concept, and I really like it. I hope it develops. I have no idea where it goes because I've not read past this volume. And it ends right there with that. That's the cliffhanger, and we go back and have some more young Miguel O'Hara short stories, which are always fun. They actually are pretty good, and they give some good background as to the character. Peter David does a really good job with the characters. The art in this volume is interesting. It's, I don't know, it's just 90s. Like I said, all the characters kind of look the same, which kind of bothers me. And I also hate when artists do this, like trying to make things look awesome. They do this thing like open mouth face, and a lot of artists just really rely on this. And everybody's got the same open mouth face, like where they kind of look ugly. See, it's right there too. It's right there too. It's right there too. It's right there too. It's like guys, vary your expressions somewhat, but they do it to try to make things look more intense and like everybody's angry and more badass. And I kind of hate that because it makes people look less pretty. All right, A more open mouth face, right? There we go. And I don't know, I mean, you see this art's not the best. They're trying to copy that Todd McFarlane style that was popular at the time. It just didn't quite work with these other artists who were trying to copy it. I guess Tyler Stone, the Alchemex guy who's been in charge of everything, gets shot, and he's actually shot by Miguel O'Hara's mother, who then kind of hides. We have Lila doing her thing. She's his hologram, and she's been sketchy over the last few issues, and she actually puts his face on herself when talking to somebody else, which is kind of bizarre, but it's funny. Good humor moment. Peter David's really good with the humor between characters. If he does anything, that's like his big signature trademark. And we finally get to Venom. And the identity of Venom is left a mystery. Oh my gosh, yay. And then we get this really drawn out, we get Jay Lee doing this, and Jay Lee, of course, does an awesome job on the covers, but he does not do the interiors. So, but it's all right. And we get this just like knockdown, drag out fight with Venom for a couple issues, and it's a big deal. And this is a homage cover of Amazing Fantasy 15, but with Venom, obviously. Yeah. And more knockdown, drag out. Venom takes his ex-girlfriend. Actually, they're both ex-girlfriends at this point in the story. I missed volume 4, so sorry about that. But the big breakup happens in volume 4, where he just isn't sure he can deal with it anymore. See what I'm saying about the open mouth face? Like, I'm just so sick of that expression. It's the same artist again. Open mouth face again. Here we go. It's not quite soy face. Soy face is like an excited open mouth face, and these are angry open mouth faces. So it's a little different, but it's a 90s style tactic, which I don't like. Open mouth face. And then his mother's debating killing herself here because she doesn't want to get caught with the whole Doom thing. And then Venom does his deal. And here's the big spoiler. Spoiler! This Dana gal who is dating the whole time gets killed by Venom. And then we have our final confrontation where Spider-Man goes after Venom. And his old girlfriend's still in the mix here. And we get to the end, and we get the big reveal of who he is. Oh, wait, we don't. You? And it ends there. Now, that's a really annoying way to end the volume. So thank you, people, for doing that. If the last volume doesn't come out, that's really obnoxious. They have no solicitations for the last volume as of this review, so hopefully it does come out. And then we finally end it with one more background story. So, really good Venom storyline. The actual main storyline is really some of the better comics out there from the 90s. The art aside, which is that faux Todd McFarlane style, which kind of is annoying, like I said. But the writing is just like off the charts good. And so Peter David does a great job. Anything Peter David writes through this just seems to be hitting it out of the park, including that Spider-Man special. But the volume is dragged down by these little side stories where they just really don't add anything to the character and don't develop anything. So overall, I'd say this is maybe a 7.5 out of 10 because this main storyline carries it a little above average. I give average reviews for 7s. You know, but there's just too much of the book bogged down in that other stuff, which I don't think is necessary for the volume. If they do an omnibus of this stuff, maybe they'll just, hopefully they just do the main issues and then the stuff that Peter David writes and leave the rest out. I'm interested in the rest of the world, especially Doom 2099, because of obviously it's crossing over here somehow, and I don't have those issues and I've never read those issues. So that's a pretty interesting storyline. Interested to see where that goes, and hopefully the last volume resolves this stuff. All right, everybody, thanks. This is my review. I don't know that anybody was asking for Spider-Man 2099 reviews, but I'm doing it anyway because that's what I felt like reading. If you enjoy what I enjoy, hit the like button. If you don't, hit the like button anyway. Subscribe, leave a comment, tell me what you're reading, tell me what you want me to review. I mean, I'm open for the most part. You know, I don't really want to do too many modern comic books. I try to stick to graphic novels because I feel like there's a little more content and single issues don't really offer much these days. Happy to cater to you guys as best I can. And I will talk to you guys soon.